Michael Benson had everything, except love. At just 35 years old, he was one of the most successful real estate developers in Lagos. His company, Benson Properties, owned luxury estates, hotels, and shopping malls across the country. He lived in a high-rise penthouse in Ikoyi, drove the latest cars, and could afford anything money could buy. Hello, family. Welcome to Storytime Bichuli. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax, as we dive into the story. Yet, despite all the wealth and status, he felt empty. Every woman he had dated had one thing in common. They loved his money more than they loved him. He remembered his last relationship with Sharon, a beautiful and sophisticated woman he had met at a business event. She was charming, intelligent, and seemed perfect. Michael had thought she was different, so he showered her with gifts, trips, and expensive dinners. One day, he decided to test her loyalty. He pretended his company had gone bankrupt. "Babe, things are really bad right now. I lost a major deal, and I may have to sell my cars," he had told her over dinner. Sharon had paused, then taken a sip of her wine. "Ah, that's sad-o. But don't worry, you'll be fine," she said casually. The next day, she became distant. A week later, she blocked his number. That was all it took. One fake story about being broke, and she was gone. Michael was heartbroken, but not surprised. It wasn't the first time. Over the years, he had seen it all. Women who pretended to love him but were only after his wealth. Women who sweet-talked him into buying them cars, paying their rent, or funding their lavish lifestyles. "Is there no woman in this world who will love me for me?" he often asked himself. It wasn't that he didn't want to take care of his woman. He was more than capable. But he wanted a love that was real, not one built on material things. One evening, after another failed date with a woman who couldn't stop talking about money, he sat alone in his penthouse, thinking. That was when the idea struck him. What if he left Lagos? What if he went somewhere no one knew him and disguised himself as a poor man? It sounded crazy, but it was the only way to find out who would truly love him. The next morning, he put his plan into action. Michael packed a small bag with only basic clothes. No designer brands, no expensive watches, no flashy accessories, just plain jeans, old shirts, and a pair of worn-out sneakers. Instead of his usual luxury travel, he took a regular commercial bus from Lagos to Ibadan. No private jet, no first-class ticket, just him, sitting in a cramped seat, sweating alongside other passengers. As the bus navigated the bumpy roads, he looked out the window, wondering if he was making the right decision. What if I regret this? What if I don't find what I'm looking for, he thought. But deep down, he knew he had to try. When he arrived in Ibadan, he chose to stay in a small, one-room apartment in a local neighborhood, II area. It was nothing like his penthouse in Ikoyi. The ceiling leaked when it rained, the mattress was thin, and the bathroom was a shared one outside. He sat on the tiny bed and smiled to himself. Welcome to the real world, Michael. Now that he had a new identity, he needed a job. He didn't want anything too comfortable. He wanted to experience real struggles, the kind of life the average Nigerian man faced daily. As he walked around town, he noticed a group of men at Bodija Market pushing heavy wheelbarrows and carrying goods for customers. They looked sweaty, exhausted, and underpaid. Michael approached one of them. "Brothers, how this work be?" he asked. The man eyed him from head to toe. "You want to alabara?" Michael nodded. The man laughed. "Oga, this work no be for small body-o. You go push barrow from morning till night, and sometimes, you no go even see better money." "I'm ready," Michael said. The man shrugged. "Okay nah. You go rent barrow for 500 Nigerian nairas per day. Any money you make na your own." Michael handed over the money and was given an old wheelbarrow. It was rusty, had one bad wheel, and looked like it had survived a war. "Omo, see my life," he muttered to himself. That was how a millionaire became a truck pusher. Pushing a wheelbarrow wasn't as easy as it looked. By noon on his first day, Michael was already drenched in sweat. His arms ached from carrying heavy bags of rice, cartons of drinks, and other goods. But the worst part wasn't the physical pain. It was how people treated him. Women he tried to talk to would look at him in disgust. A beg. Shift. You wanna use barrow toast me? Abomination, one lady laughed. Go and hustle first before looking for a girlfriend. Another one mocked. Even shop owners talked down on him. You, come carry this bag. Be fast, no waste my time, a woman shouted at him as if he wasn't human. Day after day, he faced insults, rejections, and humiliation. There was a time he saw a lady struggling to carry a heavy bag, and he rushed to help her. Madam, let me help. God forbid. I can't let a dirty barrow pusher touch my bag, she snapped and walked away. Michael sighed. So, this is how people treat the poor? But he endured it because he was on a mission. He wasn't looking for just any woman. He was looking for a woman with a heart. Then, one fateful afternoon, everything changed. It was a hot afternoon, and Michael was pushing his wheelbarrow across a busy road when it happened. His foot hit a sharp stone and he stumbled. Pain shot through his leg, and he fell to the ground. Blood dripped from a deep cut on his foot. He groaned and tried to get up, but people just walked past him. No one stopped to help. Just when he was about to struggle to his feet, he heard a soft voice. Oh my God, you're bleeding. Michael looked up and saw a beautiful young woman standing before him. She had deep brown eyes, smooth skin, and a worried expression. Come, let's go to a pharmacy, she said, helping him up. Michael was shocked. Why was this lady helping him when everyone else ignored him? I don't have money, he muttered. Don't worry, I'll pay, she replied without hesitation. She took him to a nearby pharmacy, bought medicine, and even paid for his treatment. Michael couldn't believe it. Why are you doing this? He asked. Because you're human. Anyone could be in pain, and no one deserves to be ignored, she said with a smile. Her name was Linda. And in that moment, Michael knew he had finally found something real. I'm glad you're enjoying. Michael sat on a small plastic chair inside the pharmacy, watching as the pharmacist carefully cleaned the wound on his foot. The sting of the antiseptic made him wince, but his mind wasn't on the pain. It was on her. Linda. He stole a glance at her as she stood by the counter, paying for his treatment. She wasn't dressed expensively, just a simple blue top and jeans, but there was something warm and kind about her. Michael wasn't used to this. For the past few weeks, he had been treated like trash by almost everyone. Women had mocked him, shop owners had shouted at him, and even children had laughed at him. But this woman, this complete stranger, had stopped to help him when everyone else ignored him. Done, the pharmacist said, snapping Michael out of his thoughts. Michael looked down at his bandaged foot. You should be fine, but avoid stressing that leg too much, the pharmacist advised. Michael nodded and stood up slowly, testing his weight on the leg. It still hurt, but at least it wasn't bleeding anymore. Linda turned to him. Are you okay now? She asked. Michael smiled. Yes. Thank you so much, Linda. It's nothing, she said with a small shrug. Michael reached into his pocket, pretending to check for money. Of course, he knew he had no money on him. He had come to Abaddon with only a small amount to maintain his cover. I'll pay you back, he said awkwardly. Linda chuckled. Don't worry about it. I did it out of kindness, not because I expect anything in return. That response hit Michael differently. Every woman he had met in the past expected something from him. If they bought him a small gift, they would remind him about it for weeks. If they ever did something kind, it was because they hoped to gain something in return. But Linda? She expected nothing. That made Michael even more curious about her. As they stepped out of the pharmacy, Michael hesitated before speaking. Can I have your number? Linda raised an eyebrow. Why? She asked. Michael scratched his head. I want to appreciate you properly. Maybe buy you lunch sometime? Linda hesitated. I really don't need any appreciation, she said. Please, Michael insisted. It's just a number. I promise I won't disturb you. Linda sighed, then finally gave in. Fine. She called out her number, and Michael quickly saved it on the small button phone he had bought for his disguise. All right then. Take care of yourself, Linda said, waving as she turned to leave. Michael watched her walk away. Something told him that this encounter was just the beginning. That evening, Michael sat in his small, dimly lit apartment, staring at his phone. He had been holding it for over an hour, debating whether or not to call Linda. What if she doesn't pick up? What if she regrets giving me her number? Finally, he took a deep breath and dialed. The phone rang twice before her voice came through. Hello. Hi, Linda. It's Michael, the guy you helped today. Oh, Michael. How is your leg? Michael smiled at how concerned she sounded. It's much better. I just wanted to say thank you again. It's okay, really. You don't have to keep thanking me, she laughed. Michael chuckled. All right. But at least let me take you to lunch, just as appreciation. Linda hesitated. Michael, look, I didn't help you because I wanted anything in return. I know. And that's exactly why I want to get to know you more, he said honestly. There was a pause. Then, to his surprise, she sighed and said, Fine. Just lunch. Nothing more. Michael grinned. I promise. Nothing more. The next afternoon, Michael and Linda met at a small, affordable eatery in Dugby, a busy commercial area in Ibadan. Michael had chosen the place carefully. He couldn't take her to a fancy restaurant, or it would raise questions about how a truck pusher could afford it. As they sat down, Michael couldn't help but notice how natural and simple Linda was. She didn't wear heavy makeup, she didn't try to act expensive, and she didn't keep checking her phone like most women he had dated. She was just herself. So, Michael, she said as they waited for their food, tell me about yourself. Where are you from? Michael hesitated. He had already planned his cover story. I'm from Lagos, but I moved to Ibadan recently to look for work. Times have been tough, so I started pushing wheelbarrows at the market, he said. Linda nodded, listening intently. That must be difficult, she said. Michael sighed, pretending to be frustrated. It is. People treat you like trash. Some days, I don't even make enough money to eat. Linda looked at him with sympathy. That's sad. But at least you're working hard instead of stealing or doing fraud. Michael stared at her. She actually respected hard work? Most women he knew would never even look at a poor man, yet here she was, appreciating his efforts. What about you? Michael asked. Linda smiled. I work as a sales attendant in a small clothing shop. The pay is not much, but it helps. Michael nodded. For the first time in his life, he was having a conversation with a woman that didn't involve money, luxury, or fake lifestyles. And he liked it. Over the next few weeks, Michael and Linda started seeing each other more often. They would take walks together, sit in parks, and talk about everything. Michael noticed that Linda wasn't interested in material things. She found happiness in simple moments. But not everyone was happy about their friendship. Linda's friends constantly made fun of her. Aha, Linda. You fine girl like you following a truck pusher? Have you lost your mind? Linda, do you want to suffer in this life? Find a rich man and enjoy life. But Linda didn't care. Michael may not have money, but he has a good heart, she would always say. Little by little, Michael started falling for her. Not because she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Not because she had money or class. But because she had the one thing he had been searching for all his life, a pure heart. The big reveal is coming. But Michael knew he couldn't hide forever. He had found what he was looking for. Now it was time to reveal the truth. And when he finally did, it would shake Linda to her core. Michael had spent weeks in Ibadan as a truck pusher, pretending to be a poor man in search of love. And he had finally found it. Linda was different. She wasn't after money, luxury, or status. She genuinely cared about people. She had proven that when she helped him that day on the road, and over time, she had continued to show him kindness. But now it was time for the truth. Michael knew the risk. What if she felt betrayed? What if she thought everything was a joke to him? But he also knew he couldn't keep living a lie. He had to tell her. And tonight was the night. Michael picked up his phone and dialed Linda's number. Hello, Michael, she answered, her voice warm as always. Linda, are you free this evening? I want to take you somewhere special, he said. Somewhere special? She repeated, confused. Yes. Just trust me, Michael said. There was a pause. All right, but you know I don't like expensive places, she warned. Michael smiled. Don't worry. Just dress nicely and meet me at the front of Coco Mall by 6 p.m. Linda arrived right on time, wearing a simple yet beautiful gown. She was surprised when she saw a sleek black Range Rover parked in front of the mall. Her confusion deepened when a well-dressed driver stepped out and opened the door for her. "Madam Linda?" the driver asked. Linda blinked. "Yes? Oga Michael sent me to pick you up." Linda stepped back. "Michael? Which Michael?" "The one I know doesn't own a car, let alone a driver." The driver simply smiled. "Please enter the car, Ma. You will soon understand." Hesitantly, Linda entered the luxurious car. As the car moved through the busy streets of Ibadan, she sat stiffly, completely confused. "What is happening?" she muttered to herself. 30 minutes later, the car drove through a large golden gate and stopped in front of a massive mansion. Linda's mouth fell open. "Where am I? Who owns this place?" she asked the driver. "Oga Michael is waiting inside," the driver replied. Linda hesitated before stepping out of the car. She walked toward the grand entrance, her heart pounding. And then, the doors opened, and standing there was Michael. But this was not the Michael she knew. Gone were the dirty clothes and worn-out slippers. Gone was the tired look of a struggling truck pusher. In front of her stood a tall, well-groomed man in a designer suit, his polished shoes gleaming under the lights. Linda's legs felt weak. "Michael, what is this?" she whispered. Michael smiled gently. "Come inside, Linda. Let's talk." Linda followed him into the luxurious mansion, still in shock. The marble floors, the sparkling chandeliers, the elegant furniture, everything screamed wealth. Michael led her to a sitting room and gestured for her to sit. She slowly lowered herself onto the couch, her mind racing. "Okay, start talking," she finally said. Michael took a deep breath. "Linda, I have not been completely honest with you." She folded her arms. "No kidding." Michael sighed. "I am not a truck pusher. My real name is Michael Adewale, and I am the CEO of Adewale Group, one of the biggest construction companies in Lagos." Linda gasped. "What?" "I am a millionaire, Linda. I have cars, businesses, and properties across Nigeria." Linda just stared at him, unable to process what she was hearing. "Then why the disguise?" she finally asked. Michael smiled sadly. "Because every woman I met only wanted my money. No one cared about me as a person. So, I decided to come to Ibadan, pretend to be poor, and see if I could find someone who loved me for who I am." Linda's lips parted in shock. "So, all this time you were testing me?" Michael quickly shook his head. "No. I didn't expect to meet someone like you. But from the moment you stopped to help me, I knew you were different. You were kind when others ignored me. You stood by me when your friends laughed at you. And that's why I fell in love with you, Linda." Linda's heart skipped a beat at those words. He loved her? Linda stood up, pacing the room. "This is too much," she muttered. Michael walked up to her. "Linda, please say something." She turned to him, her eyes filled with emotion. "You lied to me, Michael. How do I know that anything else was real?" Michael took her hands gently. "Everything was real, Linda. Every moment, every smile, every conversation, we were real. And I don't want to lose you." Linda stared into his eyes, searching for any sign of deceit. But all she saw was sincerity and love. Linda took a deep breath. "I don't care about your money, Michael. I never did. But I need time to process all this." Michael nodded. "I understand. Take all the time you need. Just know that my feelings for you have never changed." There was a long silence. Then, Linda smiled softly. "Then let's take this one step at a time." Michael grinned. "I can do that." And as they stood there, looking at each other, they both knew this was just the beginning of something truly special. And that's how Michael, the undercover millionaire, finally found true love. Linda didn't love him for his money. She loved him for him. And in the end, that's what mattered most. 6 months had passed since Michael's big revelation. At first, things had been awkward between him and Linda. She needed time to process everything, and Michael respected that. He didn't rush her. He continued to prove that, money or not, he was still the same man she had fallen in love with. And eventually, Linda realized something important. She loved Michael. Not because he was rich, not because he was powerful, but because he was kind, patient, funny, and deeply in love with her. And so, when Michael got down on one knee one evening at a private dinner and said, "Linda, will you marry me?" her answer was clear and simple. Yes. The wedding was like something out of a fairy tale. It was held at Eco Hotel and Suites in Lagos, and it became the most talked about wedding of the year. Michael, dressed in an expensive custom-made tuxedo, stood at the altar, his heart racing as he waited for Linda. And when she walked in, every single guest gasped. She looked stunning in her elegant white wedding gown, her beauty radiating through the entire hall. Even Michael's billionaire friends who had doubted his love for Linda were now speechless. Omo. So nah this small Ibadan girl win the heart of this our big boss. One of them whispered, "Forget levels, bro. This is true love." Another replied. As Linda reached the altar, Michael took her hands and whispered, "You are the best thing that has ever happened to me." Linda smiled and whispered back, "And you are the man I never saw coming." The priest smiled. "Shall we begin?" Just as the wedding was about to continue, a loud scream echoed through the hall. Jesus! All heads turned toward the entrance. It was Titi, one of Linda's old friends, the same friend who had laughed at her for dating a truck pusher. She was holding her wig in shock, her eyes wide. "Michael is a millionaire? My God. Linda, why didn't you tell me?" The whole hall erupted in laughter. Linda simply shook her head. "Titi, it's too late for you." Even Michael laughed. "Security, please find Titi a seat before she faints." The guests continued laughing as the wedding ceremony resumed. Michael and Linda exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other for life. "You may now kiss the bride," the priest announced. Michael didn't hesitate. As he kissed Linda, the entire hall cheered, clapped, and even sprayed money. That night, as they danced at their grand reception, Michael whispered into Linda's ear, "Do you regret falling for a truck pusher?" Linda smiled and whispered back, "Best mistake of my life." Michael laughed. And as they danced into the night, surrounded by love, friends, and family, one thing was clear. True love had won. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.